I never expected to hear from Marissa again, especially after 3 years of blissful silence. But there she was, her name flashing on my phone screen, disrupting the calm evening I was spending with my daughter, Ivy, in our cozy Oregon home. "Guess who's back in town, Elaine? And guess what else? I had a baby. You should send a gift, you know." Marissa's voice was as smug as I remembered. I could almost see her self-satisfied smirk through the phone. I held back a sigh, forcing politeness. "That's wonderful news, Marissa. Congratulations." Her laughter grated my nerves. "Oh, Elaine, always playing nice. You know, I'm living the dream with Derek. Remember him? Your ex-husband?" The way she said your ex-husband dripped with condescension. I bit my tongue, keeping my voice steady. "Yes, I remember. How could I forget?" The memory of Derek and our failed marriage still stung, even more so knowing he was now with Marissa. Marissa's voice oozed fake sympathy. "Still a single mom, huh? That's too bad. Meanwhile, Derek and I are just perfect together. You should see the house we got. It's a pity you couldn't keep a man like him." I wanted to lash out, tell her she was welcome to a man who valued luxury over loyalty, but I held back. My daughter, Ivy, was watching me with curious eyes, and I couldn't let her see her mother break. "Thank you for letting me know," I said, my voice as cold as an Oregon winter. "I have to go now. Goodbye, Marissa." I ended the call before she could respond, feeling a mixture of anger and a strange sense of déjà vu. Marissa had always been like this, taking pleasure in flaunting her so-called victories, especially if they came at my expense. As I looked at Ivy, her innocent eyes full of questions, I realized that this was more than just a petty call from an old rival. Marissa, with her twisted way of finding joy in others' misery, had reopened old wounds, reminding me of a past betrayal that I had tried so hard to forget. It was back in high school when I first met Marissa. We were opposites in every way. I was the quiet one, content with my books and music, while Marissa was the life of the party, always surrounded by friends. Despite our differences, or perhaps because of them, we became friends, or so I thought. The most painful memory was of my high school crush, Alex. He was a senior, kind and handsome, and I had been hopelessly in love with him. I had written him a letter, pouring out my feelings, too shy to tell him in person. Marissa had offered to give him the letter, but she betrayed me. She replaced my name with hers in the letter and told Alex that my feelings were just a cruel joke. Alex had confronted me, hurt and confused, and I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. The humiliation was too much. Marissa and Alex dated briefly after that, but it didn't last. She moved on quickly, as she always did, leaving a trail of hurt behind her. And now, years later, she had done it again, with Derek. I shook my head, trying to clear the bitter thoughts. I had to focus on the present, on Ivy. She was my world now, and I wouldn't let Marissa's pettiness affect our lives. But as I tucked Ivy into bed that night, a resolve began to form within me. Marissa had taken too much from me already. It was time she learned that I wasn't the same Elaine she used to know. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her parade around with her ill-gotten happiness. The game was on, Marissa, and this time I wasn't going to lose. As the Oregon rain tapped against the window, I found myself lost in the memories of high school, a time when life seemed simpler, yet so complicated. Marissa and I were unlikely friends, brought together by our shared love for theater. I was the shy tech girl, content with managing the sound system, while Marissa was the star on stage, always in the spotlight. We were a study in contrasts, she, the radiant sun, I, the quiet moon. But back then, I thought we complemented each other. My crush on Alex, a senior in the drama club, was my best-kept secret, or so I thought. He was everything I wasn't, confident, outgoing, and incredibly popular. Writing that letter to him was the bravest thing I'd ever done. Entrusting it to Marissa was the biggest mistake. The day Alex confronted me, accusing me of playing a cruel joke on him, was the day my trust in friendship shattered. Marissa watched from afar, a triumphant smile on her face as I stammered, unable to explain the truth. It was a scene straight out of a teenage drama, except the pain was real. I thought leaving for Boston for college would help me escape those painful memories. It was there I met Derek, a man who seemed to be everything I needed. He was kind and understanding, a stark contrast to the high school boys I'd known. Our relationship moved quickly. perhaps too quickly, but I was caught up in the whirlwind of romance. Derek proposed during a sunset on the Boston Harbor, and it felt like a dream. But the dream started to crumble soon after we said, "I do." The man I married began to change, or perhaps he just revealed who he truly was. His love for luxury and extravagance was something I had overlooked, blinded by love. Our fights became frequent, always about money or my lack of enthusiasm for his lavish lifestyle. "You just don't get it, Elaine," he would say. "Life is about enjoying the best things. But what about love, trust, and respect? Weren't they the best things in life?" When I became pregnant with Ivy, I thought it would bring us closer, but it only drove us further apart. Derek's presence became sporadic, his nights out longer. And then the ultimate betrayal, discovering his affair with Marissa. It was a text message that broke the news, a picture of them together, looking disgustingly happy. Derek's words, "I've found someone who truly understands me," echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. Now, as I sat in the quiet of my living room with the rain as my only companion, I realized the pattern in my life. Marissa had always been there, lurking in the background, ready to snatch away my happiness. She was like a shadow, a dark presence that I had failed to recognize. But this time, I was determined to step out of that shadow. Marissa had taken Alex, she had taken Derek, but she wouldn't take my dignity. I would fight back, not for revenge, but for closure. I picked up my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found Alex's number. It had been years since we last spoke, but it was time to clear the air. It was time to confront the past and reclaim my story. "Hello, Alex? It's Elaine. We need to talk." The day Derek and I got married was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it marked the beginning of a series of events that would eventually lead to my greatest heartache. Our wedding was nothing short of extravagant. Derek, always one for grandeur, had insisted on a lavish celebration at one of Boston's most opulent hotels. The guest list was a who's who of the city's elite, along with friends and family. Among those friends was Marissa, reluctantly invited due to our intertwined social circles. I should have known something was amiss when Marissa arrived. Dressed in a flamboyant red gown that screamed for attention, she was the antithesis of a typical wedding guest. Throughout the evening, her laughter was too loud, her comments too pointed, her presence too imposing. As Derek took the stage, his charm on full display as he serenaded the crowd, I noticed Marissa inching closer to him. She had always craved the spotlight, and now she was basking in the reflected glow of my husband's performance. I brushed off the uneasy feeling, convincing myself it was just Marissa being Marissa. But after the wedding, things changed. Derek's behavior became increasingly erratic. Our fights escalated, often about his spending habits, or my so-called lack of ambition. "You just don't understand the finer things in life, Elaine," he would sneer, his words cutting deeper each time. During my pregnancy with Ivy, Derek's absences became more frequent. I was left alone, navigating the complexities of impending motherhood without the support of my partner. The man I had married, the man who had vowed to be by my side, was slipping away. Then came the night that shattered everything. I found text messages on Derek's phone, exchanges with Marissa filled with a familiarity that made my heart sink. The realization hit me like a freight train. Marissa and Derek were having an affair. Confronting Derek led to a heated argument, one that ended with him coldly stating, "Maybe Marissa understands me better than you ever did." His words were a knife to my heart. The betrayal by a husband was one thing, but by a friend, that was a wound of a different kind. I left Boston with Ivy, returning to the solace of my small Oregon hometown. Away from the city's glitz and Derek's betrayals, I found comfort in the familiarity of home. Yet Marissa's shadow loomed over my newfound peace. As I lay in bed that night, replaying the events in my mind, a fierce determination took hold. Marissa had taken everything from me, my first love, my husband, my happiness. But she wouldn't take my future. It was time for Marissa to understand the consequences of her actions. I wouldn't let her get away with it this time. I would expose her for who she truly was, and in doing so, find my redemption. With that resolve, I drifted into a restless sleep, dreams of revenge quietly brewing in the back of my mind. Returning to Oregon with Ivy was like stepping into a different world, one far removed from the chaos and heartbreak of Boston. Here, in the quiet small-town life, I found a semblance of peace. But the tranquility was short-lived, shattered by Marissa's haunting presence in my life, even from afar. Marissa's message about her life with Derek was like a poison, seeping into my newfound happiness and tainting it with bitterness. She flaunted her life with Derek, not out of joy but out of spite, relishing the chance to twist the knife she had already driven deep into my heart. As I sat in my childhood bedroom, Ivy asleep in her crib, I scrolled through my social media feed, only to be ambushed by pictures of Marissa and Derek. There they were, looking disgustingly perfect together, their smiles a stark contrast to the pain they had caused. Marissa's latest post was a picture of them in a luxurious house, Derek's arm possessively wrapped around her. The caption read, "Living the dream with my soulmate." Each word felt like a deliberate jab, a reminder of what she had taken from me. Anger bubbled inside me, a fiery mix of betrayal and indignation. Marissa had always been a master manipulator, playing people like chess pieces for her amusement. But this time, her game had gone too far. She had stolen my husband, my sense of security, and tried to rob me of my dignity. I knew I couldn't let her win. Marissa thrived on attention and adoration, but what she feared most was exposure, the world seeing her for the manipulative, heartless person she was. It was time for her facade to crumble. With determination, I began to plan. I reached out to old friends, gathering bits and pieces of information about Marissa and Derek's life together. Each story painted a picture of a relationship built on lies and deceit. I also reconnected with people from our high school days, including those who knew about Marissa's betrayal with Alex. As I pieced together the narrative of her past manipulations, a pattern emerged, one that would be crucial in exposing her true nature. One evening, as I was poring over messages and emails, Ivy toddled into the room, her innocent eyes filled with curiosity. Seeing her, a wave of clarity washed over me. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about protecting my daughter from the toxic influence of people like Marissa. "Ivy," I said, lifting her into my lap, "Mommy is going to make sure no one ever hurts us again. We're going to be just fine, you and me." As Ivy nestled into my arms, her presence a comforting weight, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Marissa might have thought she had won, but the game was far from over. It was my move now, and I was playing for keeps. The autumn leaves in Oregon were turning a fiery red, much like the burning resolve within me. My plan to expose Marissa's true character was taking shape, but an unexpected encounter added a new dimension to my scheme. It was at a local community theater where fate played its hand. I had taken Ivy to see a children's play, hoping to distract myself from the brewing storm in my mind. As the audience applauded the final act, the director stepped onto the stage to thank everyone. My heart skipped a beat. It was Alex, my high school crush. After the play, I gathered my courage and approached him. "Alex, I'm Elaine." "We were in drama club together in high school," I said, introducing myself and Ivy. Recognition dawned on his face. "Elaine, wow, it's been ages. What brings you here?" I hesitated, then decided to be upfront. There was a misunderstanding back in high school that I never got to clear up. Over coffee, with Ivy playing quietly by my side, I told Alex everything, about the letter, Marissa's betrayal, and how it had affected me. To my surprise, Alex was genuinely sympathetic. "I always wondered about that," he said, shaking his head. "Marissa and I didn't last long. She always seemed off." As we talked, I realized how much I had misjudged Alex back then. He was not just the popular senior. He was kind, understanding, and, surprisingly, still single. The conversation shifted to life, parenthood, and our current pursuits. Alex's interest in theater had turned into a career, and he was now a respected director. He listened intently as I spoke about my love for sound design, a passion I had nurtured despite the chaos of my personal life. "That's impressive," he said. "You know, we're looking for someone to help with sound design for our next play. Would you be interested?" The offer took me by surprise. I'd have to think about it, with Ivy and everything." "Take your time," he said, smiling. "It would be great to work with you again, Elaine." As I left the coffee shop, a plan began to form in my mind. Working with Alex could be the perfect opportunity to rebuild my life, both professionally and personally. It was a chance for me to step out of Marissa's shadow and reclaim my story. But more than that, it was a chance for revenge. Alex, a link to Marissa's past, could be the key to exposing her. With him by my side, I could show the world Marissa's true colors. As I tucked Ivy into bed that night, I felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long while. Marissa had taken so much from me, but she hadn't broken me. I was still standing, and I was ready to fight back. "Mommy's got work to do," I whispered to Ivy as she drifted off to sleep. The stage was set, and it was time for Marissa's final act. The opportunity to confront Marissa presented itself unexpectedly. She had thrown a lavish party at her in Derek's house, a spectacle designed to flaunt their ostentatious lifestyle. I hesitated at first, but then realized it was the perfect stage to unveil Marissa's true self. Dressed modestly yet elegantly, I arrived with Ivy in tow. The house was abuzz with guests, laughter echoing off the walls. Marissa, draped in an extravagant dress, played the perfect hostess, her laughter ringing louder than the rest. "Elaine, how nice of you to come!" Marissa greeted me with a saccharine smile, her eyes scanning me dismissively. "And you brought Ivy too. How quaint." Ivy clung to my hand, sensing the tension. I smiled reassuringly at her and turned to face Marissa. "Thank you for inviting us, Marissa. Your home is quite something." "Oh, it is, isn't it?" Marissa gloated. "Derek has done so well for himself, not that I expected anything less." As the night progressed, I watched as Marissa flitted between guests, her mask of charm never slipping. But I knew her too well. Beneath the surface lurked a conniving, selfish woman who thrived on others' misfortunes. I found Derek standing alone on the balcony, his eyes distant. "Derek," I said, approaching him cautiously. He turned, surprise registering on his face. "Elaine, I didn't expect you to come." "We need to talk," I said firmly, "about Marissa." Derek's expression hardened. "What about her?" "It's time you knew the truth about the woman you left your family for," I said, my voice steady. "Marissa isn't who you think she is." I revealed everything. Her manipulations in high school, the letter incident with Alex, and her pattern of betrayals. Derek listened, his face growing pale with each word. I had no idea," he stammered, the facade of his perfect life crumbling. Just then Marissa appeared, her smile faltering as she saw us talking. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "Derek, why don't you tell her?" I challenged, stepping back to watch the unraveling of Marissa's carefully constructed world. Derek faced Marissa, his newfound knowledge casting a shadow over their relationship. "Marissa, Elaine told me about your past, about everything." Marissa's eyes flashed with panic, then anger. "Elaine, you always were a jealous, spiteful—" "No, Marissa," I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. "I'm not the one who's spiteful. You are. You've built your life on lies and manipulation, but it ends tonight." The guests, drawn by the commotion, began to gather around us. Marissa's mask slipped, revealing the vindictive person I had always known. She tried to deny everything, but the truth was out. As the party descended into chaos with whispers and shocked expressions, I took Ivy's hand and left. Behind us, Marissa's world was falling apart, the consequences of her actions finally catching up to her. Ivy looked up at me, her eyes wide. "Mommy, are you okay?" I smiled, a genuine smile of relief. "Yes, sweetie, we're going to be just fine." The aftermath of Marissa's party was the talk of the town for weeks. The facade of her perfect life had crumbled, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. But as the dust settled, I found myself not in a state of triumph, but in quiet reflection. In the weeks that followed, I poured my energy into the sound design for the community theater, working alongside Alex. Our collaboration was a refreshing change, and through it, I rediscovered my passion for music and sound. Ivy thrived too, making friends at the theater and even taking a small role in an upcoming play. Her laughter and joy were a balm to my soul, a reminder of what truly mattered. Marissa, on the other hand, seemed to unravel further with each passing day. Her social media posts, once filled with bragging and luxury, became sporadic and tinged with desperation. Derek had left her, unable to reconcile the woman he loved with the truth of her manipulations. One chilly evening, as Ivy and I walked home from the theater, my phone rang. It was Marissa. Her voice, once so confident and mocking, was now tinged with desperation. "Elaine, I need your help," she pleaded. "Everyone has turned against me. I have nothing." Her words should have brought me satisfaction, but all I felt was a deep sense of pity. "Marissa, you brought this on yourself. You hurt a lot of people, including me." I know I did, but I'm alone now. I thought you might understand, being a single mom and all, she said, her voice cracking. I stopped walking, Ivy looking up at me with curious eyes. Marissa, being a single mom doesn't make me weak. It makes me strong enough to know when to help and when to walk away. So you're just gonna leave me like this? Marissa's voice was a mix of anger and despair. I'm not leaving you, Marissa. You left yourself a long time ago. I hope you find your way back, I said, and with that I ended the call. As Ivy and I continued our walk home, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had come full circle, from a victim of Marissa's games to a survivor standing on my own 2 feet. In the days that followed, I focused on my work and Ivy, building a life filled with love and purpose. Alex and I grew closer, bound by our shared passion for theater and our mutual respect for each other's talents. The final performance of the play was a success, and as I watched Ivy on stage, her face alight with happiness, I knew we had found our place. We had turned a page, leaving behind the pain and betrayal, ready to write our own story. Marissa's downfall was not my victory. My victory was in moving forward, in finding joy in the simple things, and in the love I shared with my daughter. As the curtain fell on the final act, I hugged Ivy tightly, her laughter ringing in my ears. We did it, Mommy, she beamed. Yes, we did, I whispered, my heart full. We did it together.